G'day guys, Tom here from Different Drop with Gary Mills from Jamsheed, one of the real artists, rock stars, I reckon, of our industry, and pumping out.
Highly functioning alcoholic, I think, is what they call it.
Oh, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Pumping out some amazing wines, really individual, unique, and just really well-made wines. So, mate, thanks so much for coming in.
Great to be here.
And
loving the new dig.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're in the new HQ2. And mate, I guess I just want to start with the name Jamsheed. I understand a bit of sort of mythology reference there.
Yeah. So in a past life, I've got a literature degree.
Yep.
And I was a very unemployable, arts graduate. So the only thing that sort of stuck in my brain after 4 years was reading this great poem called the Rubai Ava Makayan, which is an old Sufi poem. And in it, he talks about this King Jamsheed, who was he's very much a Noah-like figure. So he harvested the first grapes. He lived to 700 years. He had a whole bunch of wives. But there was a great story in that poem where it talks about how he would harvest his grapes over winter, store them in clay jars, set them aside, and they would spontaneously ferment. Now, he wouldn't really know what, apparently wine wasn't invented at this time, so he would label them poison and set them aside. He's also kept the harem of 500 women, hence we have the harem series. Very busy guy. And one of those ladies, despairing of such terrible migraines, decided she would try and kill herself by drinking the so-called poison.
Yeah, right.
Reported to the king that she was cured of a headache, and the king said, "Let's make more of this poison." So in that story, that's how wine was invented. So I sort of ran with that.
And a reference to that. Oh, I love it. And I guess, I mean, whether you're making your wines as the Persians did, but there's certainly a bit of an old world.
There's definitely that rusticity.
Yeah. I mean, with these wines, guys, I think all natural yeasts and old oak and unfine on the fields.
Nothing added, nothing subtracted.
Yeah. So what's the thinking, the rationale behind that?
Well, it just makes better wine, I think, empirically. I just think there's I'm as much a believer in the process as much as the product, and I think that if you don't have your integrity in the process, then that shows through in the wine in the end.
Yeah.
And empirically, I think it makes better wine.
Yep.
Straight out. So if you can capture that purity and that essence of the vineyard, what I guess you call it terroir, and you can hold that all the way through the process, then that's going to shine through in the bottle.
I guess that's the key, isn't it? Because I mean, a lot of these terms are thrown around as marketing. But if it's making better wine and more expressive wine, that is telling the story of a vineyard. That's what counts.
Exactly. I mean, if you've got these great old sites, like a couple of my vineyards are 140 years old, and it's more a curatorial role where you just sort of nurture these things through and get them up to the point, and they're going to be good. You got good fruit at the start, and you don't stuff it up during the process. You're going to have good wine at the end.
So you're the master of just not stuffing up.
Benign negligence.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, do it. Well, I always remember, I was really fortunate to study with a guy called Paul Draper in Red Vineyards in California, and I still remember to this day that the best thing I ever took away from him was he said to me, the hardest thing to do in the winery is to do nothing.
Yeah.
There's always that sort of tendency and that desire to sort of tinker with something and fix it and it's like, no, just sit back and look at it. It'll be what it's going to be.
And I think you're seeing now the benefits of that. I mean, the wines are getting fantastic, accolades and reviews. And I mean, the Shiraz or Syrahs in particular, is that your flagship variety?
Syrah, I hang my hat on Syrah, absolutely. Yeah. And the single vineyard Syrahs are sort of where Jamsheed comes from. It's about exploring and exploiting the best terroirs that Victoria has to offer. We're really lucky in Australia and in Victoria in particular that we have this ring of really good ancient soils and great old ancient vineyards. Like Great Western and Beechworth and Pyrenees and all these areas, and they're really tight granite soils. And my want is to sort of explore those unique terroirs in Australia, because terroir for a long time has been a dirty word in Australia. Not anymore, thankfully. Things have changed really rapidly, but and just highlight those terroirs, and I think start that conversation about the fact that it's not necessarily about variety. It's not necessarily about the wine. It's about the place that they come from.
Yeah, sure.
And by making all wines, trying to make all the Syrahs the same way, and just highlighting those differences through the vineyards rather than the process.
Oh, I love it. I mean, the Beechworth for me is my personal favourite. I know some of the guys prefer the Pyrenees or the Garden Garden.
I can't have favourites, but that's
right.
You guys can have favourites.
Guys, you've got to try these wines. They're fantastic. Whether the Syrahs, a couple of the single vineyard, the Beechworth Roussanne and Riesling, all the Harem series. So that's what you have here. There's LeBlanc Blanc and Pepe Le Pinot and Jose the Rosé and all sorts of fun, quirky things going around at great prices. So great wines, not hugely available, but really worth trying.
Oh, you guys will get something.
Okay, thanks.
We'll look after you.
No, thanks again, Go. Really appreciate
Awesome.
it,
Thank
mate.
you.
And
Yeah, thanks,
all the best and cheers.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Keep drinking well.